Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's QB Talks, ProAdvisor Award Winners Roundtable, hosted by Insightful Accountant. Insightful Accountant is an online news and information source written for technology insights and practice innovation. My name is Emily Hedrick, and I am today's webinar host for IA. If you have any questions during the session, please enter them in the Q&A box, and we'll try to address them. Everyone that has registered will receive a follow-up email with the recording and presentation. For next month's QB Talks, we're going to have a What's New in QBO in 2022 presented by Liz Scott, but it's not going to be on this regular link. It's going to be at our Future Forward event on December 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll drop the link in the chat in just a moment. To get us started, let me introduce Murph. William Bill Murphy, better known as Murph, is in charge of all things related to content. Murph is an advanced certified QuickBooks ProAdvisor with over 30 years of consulting experience. For many years, he was the anchor of the National Advisor Network's online forum and 3-time consecutive winner of the NAN Online MVP Award. Murph has published articles in numerous industry publications and served as technical editor for business analysis by Wiley Publishing. Today marks Murph's final regular hosting gig for QB Talks. Welcome, Murph, and you can take it away.
Thanks, Emily. With us today are a group of our award recipients, and if you'll go ahead and change slides one more time. We're a little out of sequence because Mariko hasn't joined us yet, but with us currently is Susan Cook, our 2021 QuickBooks Desktop ProAdvisor Award recipient, Nancy D'Amato, our 2021 QuickBooks Niche Practice ProAdvisor Award recipient, Vic Madeira, our 2021 Desktop Integrations ProAdvisor Award recipient, and Alicia Pollock, our 2021 QBO Integrations Appologist Award recipient. And that is appologist, not apologist. At the end, I'm going to have some closing comments that are really about the awards and the award process, and probably provide more information in detail about how the awards really work than I've ever provided before. Because Mariko hasn't joined us yet, and we haven't heard exactly why, I'm going to ask Emily to advance a couple of slides, and we're going to start by talking to Susan. And Susan is the CEO and founder of Accountability Advisors Consulting in Mashpee, Massachusetts. That's a lot of M's to say. She's a trusted advisor to her clients who cares greatly for each and every one of them. Just read the hundreds of testimonies and reviews she has. She is an advanced and elite QuickBooks ProAdvisor in both desktop and online, and a member of the Enterprise Council of QuickBooks Solution Providers. Her commitment to small, mid-sized, wholesale, construction, and manufacturing businesses is in part the reason why Insightful Accountant recognized her this year as the Desktop ProAdvisor Award recipient. So Susan, I'd like to ask you to tell the audience a little about yourself and your practice, and a little about what this award means to you and what you've had to do to achieve it.
Well, thank you, Murph. And I just want to say I'm very honored, of course, to receive this award, especially because of the amount of respect I have not only for this whole process and what it took for you to create it, but also for my fellow nominees, because each of them are really well known for their dedication to this field and their expertise in accounting technology. So I'm just humbled to be counted among them at all. And I'm delighted to get the desktop award, our legacy product, right? Because although I definitely do a lot of QuickBooks Online training these days, especially for my contractors and small service businesses, most of my projects are focused on QuickBooks Enterprise and QuickBooks Point of Sale. So you ask us to think about helping others know what it takes to be in the top 100 and now in the top 10. And I thought about that a lot, and I feel like it takes a willingness to learn. I started out with a small bookkeeping service in 1987 on Nantucket Island. We purchased an XT computer and a Unix-based accounting program called American Business Systems. A friend came over to the island and taught me how to edit the accounting program so that we could use it for multi-customers. Later, he told me, "You started your business with nothing but nerve." And he was right. I had very little formal training. I had very little experience when I started out. So, what I did have at the time was a willingness to learn and solve problems. And that friend, he's now an Oracle software engineer, and he's one of the many mentors that I've benefited from through these years. So if you're just starting out, don't be discouraged. It does take nerve, but don't go it alone. Find your mentors. The little bookkeeping, payroll, and tax service grew gradually to have over 100 regular clients. When QuickBooks came out in the mid-90s, I hid it from my clients as long as I could because I was thinking that they might not need me anymore with my special accounting, computerized bookkeeping service. But I gave it a chance. I learned QuickBooks, and I eventually incorporated it into my firm because I saw the benefits. Then when my son came along, I decided to sell the whole firm so that I could scale back and enjoy motherhood for a while. In the year 2000, I took a traveling course that came through Boston from Doug Sleater called How to Become a QuickBooks Consultant. Maybe you've seen this book. Maybe you remember it. I keep it on my shelf as a remembrance of how much it helped me to get started and gave me the courage to get going. It changed my focus from doing for my clients bookkeeping to training them to do the bookkeeping themselves, but the right way. In QuickBooks, it came with this little floppy disk that had some sample files in it so you could practice. And I did. I practiced a lot so that I could become an expert for my clients. As I started to go along, I realized I needed more education. So I went on with Sleater courses, Woodard courses, Insightful Accountant readings and courses, and of course, the School of Hard Knocks. Being out there with making mistakes and being in the field with the clients and seeing what they needed. But gradually, I gained more and more confidence so that I could take on much more challenging clients. I decided to specialize in retail because I like shopping. And I love to get to know these little store owners, and I love to teach them point of sale. I learned point of sale, took Leslie's classes, and I went out there and helped these little stores. And I loved it because I could see how I was helping their families. I got to know their whole family. Now I enjoy setting up large multi-store environments too, because it's so cool. You can have all these retail stores and their totals just sync into QuickBooks Enterprise by class, like click. It's very powerful. And now we even have an app that will sync QuickBooks Point of Sale to QuickBooks Online. I also have a lot of enterprise clients, especially in manufacturing and wholesale distribution. I focus on inventory challenges. I love to go visit the factories, see how things are made, meet the people who make the products, get to know them. And then, of course, I want to provide them a process that they can understand and rely on. Being married to an entrepreneur, I understood the mindset of the owner-operator. They have a need for timely access to accurate financials, but they're not often interested in the details and the process that are required to provide these essential details. So I found it important to be a good listener, understand their individual personalities. What are their future goals? I love to hear their stories, what led them to become an entrepreneur. And then I can help them address their pain points and let them know what questions they should be asking from their accounting process. Because really, it's only after taking the time to understand their current process, then you can suggest, implement, and sell them a solution that will benefit their whole team, right? One example of this was a client I met about a year ago. They manufacture a little machine that's needed in laboratories, and they sell the cartridges, refill cartridges for this machine. But the machine has about 200 parts. And they were struggling in QuickBooks Online because we don't have assembly. So I created a new data file and a process for them in QuickBooks Enterprise hosted. So they still have the benefit of the cloud, but they were in desktop. And they loved it because now they have accurate, timely financials and they feel confident in their whole process. Another quick story was a chemical manufacturer that I did this year. They're in the textile industry and they make chemicals that are applied to fabrics to make them flame retardant or waterproof. And they were in Sage. And they had this bookkeeper who was a very good bookkeeper, but very stubborn. She didn't want to share her data. And the owners were like held hostage by her because they had to wait for her reports until she was ready with all her Excel reports for them. They couldn't make decisions. Finally, she retired and they were able to get me in there, create a whole enterprise process for them. And now everyone on the team has accurate instant reports. They understand their workflow process. Everybody has their roles down and they continue to improve on their use of QuickBooks daily. So, of course, now QuickBooks has been around a long time. So we meet more and more clients with large data files. These data files are often facing issues. I find the clients, they have a long-term relationship with their data and they don't want to always let go, even if the data is bad. But sometimes we have to train them to start a new file or do a file shrink and help them get that corruption out. And then we do a lot of what I call, while we're at it, we're going to fix up a lot of things that they were maybe doing wrong through the years. So it's been fun. It's really rewarding to do these large projects. More and more, I gain confidence. I'm out in the field and I get that rewarding feeling of really helping these little businesses. When I'm stuck, which happens occasionally, I never bluff. I say to them, I'm going to need to go and do some homework. That's a really good question. I really don't know. And then I do. I go home and I do my homework and I ask you guys. Or I go to my file cabinet here where I have all my vendors that I've met through the years at conferences and sort them by what they do. And then I interview them and I demo them and I learn them from my clients so they can close those gaps if I can't find a QuickBooks workaround, right? So to pay it forward, I'm now building out my own strategic affiliate program so that other QuickBooks ProAdvisors can benefit from my experience and share in income too from Intuit, residual income. So it's great for my hard work to be acknowledged in this way. Thank you so much. And yes, to Wilna, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my super supportive husband, Ralph. He is the wind beneath my wings. He brings me coffee. He drives me to long distance on-site clients. He attends conferences with me, and he even cooks me fabulous dinners. So I'm very grateful for him. So in conclusion, stay willing to learn, love your clients, and look to your mentors for support. And you can be in the top 100. Thank you.
Murph, you're muted.
Thank you, Susan. That was wonderful. I'm so glad you brought up the issue of large files and problems with files, because that leads me right into our next guest, and that's Nancy D'Amato. Some of you may know her as Nancy Gomez. Uh, and suddenly we have a picture. My goodness, I don't know how that showed up. We didn't have a picture, and suddenly we have a picture. But anyway, Nancy owns The Bottom Line in Santa Barbara, California. And she is this year's Insightful Accountant Niche Practice ProAdvisor Award recipient. Now, let me tell you what makes Nancy's niche unique. While Nancy offers a wide range of services, she's probably best known for her data services. And that is, in fact, the niche that won her this year's award. For many years, she has specialized in QuickBooks desktop data migration and developed a reputation for resolving data messes that almost nobody else can. Her ability to get QuickBooks desktop company data files back in operation when other methods have failed is one example of how a ProAdvisor can successfully build a true niche practice. So, Nancy, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little about yourself and how you got into pro advising, and what this award means to you and your firm.
Well, thanks, Murph. It's great to see everybody. And Susan, it amazes me still how much your trajectory and mine have been so similar, even though you're on one coast and I'm on the other. And the same is true for everybody in between. As I'm listening to Susan speak, it's like, wow, that's me. It very similar. I started out in 1982 working for The Bottom Line, and we were using programs like Real World and Peachtree, and was able to buy my business when the previous owner retired. Come 1995, here comes QuickBooks. And a CPA that was working with, it happened to be my father-in-law's firm, said, one, you need to learn this program. And two, here you go, it's a mess. It's in QuickBooks for Mac, by the way. So this was my first introduction, not only to QuickBooks, but how people who can inadvertently get data into the wrong file. Well, obviously, if it happens on a Mac, it's going to happen on Windows. So as soon as I'd gotten my clients converted, trotting along for another year or so, all of a sudden it happened. Now, I'd used Big Red previously and for IIF transfers. So I was familiar that there was a tool out there, but if anyone has used that, it's not the best in the aspect of you can't match up payments, it can be tedious, et cetera, et cetera. So here I am with this client that has got data in 2 files and is freaking out. So I went looking around and discovered Q2Q. That software was the start of getting me interested in what I call my geek side of bookkeeping, because in order to do these data migrations, you have to understand not only your 2-legged sides of how accounting works, you also have to understand how QuickBooks works and how it takes the transactions and treats them, and how, guess what, QuickBooks lets us enter things. It'll look okay, but when we try and poke it and move it into another file, it's a whole different story. So slowly but surely, I ended up doing these and got a bit of a reputation that I could do them and would get increasingly larger projects as we went along. And, eventually it pushed into enterprise clients. Now, my local bookkeeping clients are, our small mom and pops that are in Pro and Premier. So for me to see an enterprise file is unusual until I started doing these data file reductions, merges, etc. And what I found out with these is that not only are they, of course, bigger files, but these clients have different issues. Maybe they've started from a small person and all of a sudden have 30 users in there and don't know that there are apps to help them out, or maybe they should be using something different for inventory, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of times I'm coming in helping them do workflow as well as actually fixing those problems in their file. Most times when they call up, they are harried and then some. So it's about calming them down, finding out what's going on, seeing how death-defying it is, and then saying, okay, here's our plan to get this done for you. It's definitely an interesting setup, and it keeps me interested because bookkeeping is bookkeeping, as we all know, but sometimes we need a little bit of excitement. And I don't always get that from my clients here in town, but I do get it in working with these clients and helping them to not only work better in QuickBooks, but to be able to do bigger, better, badder things, or to understand why they're having problems. It has definitely taken a lot of help from mentors like Murph, mentors like Doug Schleter and Joe Woodard, just Matt Clark from QB or Not QB. They have all been able to help me understand what's going on the back end and how I can better fix it. Or is it something that's just a little bit out of my bailiwick and maybe we need to do something a little different, or maybe it's not a fixable situation and they really need a whole brand spanking new file. To get here, much as what Susan said, it's definitely a lot of learning and being open to it and listening, not only to mentors, but listening to what your clients are saying, because a lot of times what they say and what really is the problem are two completely different things, often at one end of the spectrum than the other. And being able also to say, hey, look, I need to go look this up, or hey, I need to try this and make sure this is going to work. In other words, you don't know everything, even though you know a lot, but admitting that to the client, it makes you more human. And they realize that, you know, this is better for them, that you do the research that you need to do. And that often happens to me when we're doing migrations, when I'm having weird errors come up that I didn't expect to find. Oftentimes they don't come out until I start poking the file, which can be a rather daunting prospect at 6 in the morning to see something I haven't seen before. There's just so much that you can do with, again, it's all about the learning process. And what I've known some people to do getting interested in data migration is try it out. Try out the tools. Some people aren't interested in doing this stuff with Q2Q or Transaction Pro or SASANT, and I could go on forever with all the tools out there. And other people really like working with it. It just depends on what you like to do and what you feel comfortable with. That's one thing I've learned whether it's an industry or a software or something, is don't jump into something. It may sound like a good idea, but if it doesn't feel comfortable to you, or a client doesn't feel comfortable to you, you know, usually your gut is correct. And that's something to watch out for, that you don't get yourself neck deep in something and have a hard time getting out of it. What this award means to me, I'm humbled, because talking to the likes of Murph and so many others that have really helped me get to this point, it's just been amazing. And never in my wildest dreams, when I started doing these data migrations, did I think I would have this. It's just so wonderful. And my clients are all excited, my clients here in town. And it definitely, for the new migrations that are coming to me, will be something where they can say, hey, wait, she knows more, she's won this award. This is definitely where we need to be. Getting into the top 100, you know, do your homework, talk to your mentors, take care of your clients. It will all work out. And there's more than enough work out there for all of us, no matter what. And thank you so much, Murph. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I want to spend a moment talking about niche and the niche award in general. And that is to say, I've heard people like Joe Woodard for years preach, you got to get a niche practice. You got to be a niche practitioner. You need to specialize this, that, or the other. And folks, when we created these awards and we decided that one of them would be niche, it was because of the emphasis of people like Joe that said people need to specialize, and there needs to be, people who have a practice that's geared towards maybe construction, or geared towards inventory, or geared towards maybe data, or geared towards this, that, or the other. And I'm just going to tell you the fact that people don't recognize the fact that they have a niche, whether they do or not. What I mean by that is, if I have 790 people who fill out applications for the top 100, and only 52 of them rank that niche is their number one practice focus. Now, think about that. What does that do when I'm looking for, when the algorithm's looking for 10 people out of top 100, 10 people are going to be in the niche category, and automatically there's only 52 right there, okay? Because that's the way this system works. And so, if there's 52 people who say they're niche out of 790, and the rest of their credentials are sound, they already are in a shrunken group. It's kind of like, they're already just such a small fraction that's being considered. So you need to think about, if you truly are a niche practitioner, that you want to focus on that when you fill out your application. And I'll talk more about that. I'm going to talk about the next person on our list, and that's Vic Madeira, who is president of ACS, which is based in the Dallas metro area. It's a consulting firm that specializes in QuickBooks. Vic's passion is helping small businesses prosper and grow. And one way he does that is by finding solutions that work with QuickBooks. He has integrated many third-party software products with desktop over the years, and now he's doing the same with QuickBooks Online apps. But he was recognized this year as our Desktop Integrations ProAdvisor Award recipient. He's an advanced certified ProAdvisor in desktop and online. He's a QuickBooks solution provider. And of course, he's married to Laura, who most of you know is one of the leading trainer writers of QuickBooks in the world. So Vic, I'm going to let you tell us a little about yourself and ACS and what all you all do, and what this award means, and et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Murph, and thank you everyone who's here. This top 10 desktop integration award from Insightful Accountant just came out of the blue, and I'm really grateful to be included with so many fine people who received these awards in the past, and those that are going to come after us. It's really an honor. And just brief background on how I got into this thing. It was as a result of a failed business. So don't be afraid of failure, because it might lead you into something else that you like much more. And yeah, my company ACS stands for something else other than accounting. And but my wife, who was doing a good business in accounting and bookkeeping and training, kind of said, okay, why don't you start taking some clients? And that's kind of what led into all of this. And I've been doing it for over 22 years, and I don't want to tell you how long Laura's been doing it, but we've always struggled with, specialization. We've gone back and forth. Do we want to specialize in something, strictly one thing, or we don't? And many of you probably know Laura as a QB desktop and construction expert, and she's heavily into the construction, and that's what most of her clients do. And I've always had an affinity for working with companies in manufacturing and distribution. My previous background was in inventory and logistics, so I kind of naturally fell into working with companies who had inventory and who were making widgets or importing them or whatever. And so this award comes as a result of a lot of that work that I put in over the years and working with clients who needed more of a complete ecosystem for QuickBooks. They don't just need accounting numbers, they need other applications that are going to help them manage their business, to give them tools to manage their inventory or sales that come in, or purchasing, or ERP. And I also do quite a bit of e-commerce and point of sale as well, and linking that with QuickBooks. And most of my e-com interest lately is derived from the fact that QuickBooks Online is great for working with companies who sell things online, whether it's Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever. And so there's a lot of integration issues, not only with QBO, but also with enterprise and WebGility and those things. So I love working in that field, and that's what's giving me a little bit added oomph to keep going with this. This recognition is also going to help us reach out to a lot of those mid-market companies. And so rather than the small business owners who come to you and need help with QBO, you might be able to reach out to the larger engagements, which are much more interesting, as far as I'm concerned, and more challenging. These are people who love QuickBooks, but they need more insights and tools to grow their business. So as a result of this Top 10 award, I've also been contacted by some software vendors that we all know, that some of them were at this show, that's Scaling New Heights. And they've come to me and asked me to help them develop some content and a course for the accountant community, because that's the space they're in. Their applications cater towards the accountants. And this is opening doors that I didn't have before. And it may be outside my comfort zone, but it's still very exciting. I've learned that having a specialized practice focus, whether it's construction or inventory manufacturing, can provide you with the reputation of being the person to talk to. Although I work with a lot of different industries, being the expert in my field of choice, such as inventory, it opens doors to those big profitable engagements, but it also is the person that people want to come to and kind of ask you questions. Hey, how do I do this? Why am I not doing this right? And one of my favorite things that I love hearing from customers is when they say, I wish I had found you sooner. And those are people who are struggling, don't know where to go for answers, have reached out to people that maybe didn't have the right answers. But whatever you choose as your area of expertise, you can call it a niche. I call it a practice focus, an area that you specialize in. Whatever that may be, pick something that you enjoy, please. If you don't like working with lawyers, call Linda Artisani. She loves working with lawyers, okay? If you need somebody to teach a class for you, call Alicia. She probably has a QBO class all ready to go for you, okay? But pick something that you enjoy, not just the vertical that's going to make you the most money, because after a while, that just grinds you down, okay? I hope that those who are watching today, this webinar, or watching a recorded webinar, if one of your goals is to become a top 100, a top 10, or even ProAdvisor of the year, I can offer you some advice, okay, if this is one of your goals. You have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone, okay? You have to stretch yourself. And the person that I need to thank for constantly making me stretch myself is my wife, Laura, okay? If she hadn't pushed me into doing certain things and to tackle the bigger projects, I'd probably just be telling people how to enter a bill and pay a bill, okay? And then I'd leave and I'd never see them again. Excuse me. But maybe you're not comfortable in becoming a leader. Maybe you've never thought of yourself as a leader, okay? Or you're holding back from sharing that specialized knowledge that you may already possess. Start off slow. I think one of the things that helped me is becoming involved in our local area group, our Woodard group. Laura and I have kind of managed that group for about 10 years of ProAdvisors. And shout out to some of my people that I saw here on the list. They're out there, they're watching. And we love helping those folks learn new things, learn new softwares, compliance issues that may come. So join that group, share your expertise with them, okay? We found that doing this, we can refer clients back and forth. And I'll just give you a couple of examples just this week. My friend Renata, who's here locally, she had an inventory client that screwed up their books because they turned on enhanced receiving in the middle of a multi-year file. And she just is not comfortable with trying to unwind all that and having somebody help them. So she referred them to me. And that's awesome. I think that's great. And I've got a QBO client that needs Notify as an app attached to their QBO. And I'm not comfortable with knowing QBO. So I'm going to, and I already reached out to my friend, Tonya Schulte, and she's an expert in Notify. So she's gonna help them out. So become a part of the community, okay? Maybe think about joining the Intuit Writer Trainer, or is it Trainer Writer Network? I keep forgetting, right? That's a group of many people who maybe all they've done is just conduct a couple of local classes in their area, okay? But join that group and other opportunities will open up to you. And you dip your feet in slowly. You don't have to jump in with both feet right away, okay? I also think that joining a good Facebook or a LinkedIn group, I know we all have way too much social media demands in our lives, but I can tell you about my friend Matthew Fulton, who is also a top 10 award recipient this year. And I'll tell you a little bit about Matthew. He's a tireless champion of sharing knowledge, developing content, and giving it all away for free. If you remember last year during the pandemic, at its height, we had all the PPP frenzy. Every client wanted free money and how to apply for it. And the rules changed almost every week, right? And Matthew was out there posting new content, new videos about how to go through the process. And that was invaluable information. It saved us so many hours of having to regurgitate all of this legal mumbo jumbo, and Matthew cut right to it. And he's got this wonderful QBO community live, where if you jump in there and you can become one of the experts answering somebody else's question. You don't have to be just asking questions. There are people who may ask a question that you may have about a data file, and Nancy will jump in there and give them some advice, okay? So do those kinds of things, get known as an expert in something, okay? And that will go a long way to gift you the recognition that you need into becoming a top 100 ProAdvisor. And I'm going to use my award this year to reach out to people out there who need help. If you want help and you want to become a top 100, reach out to me. I'll give you some ways that you can get to that level, okay? And lastly, I just want to appreciate so much all the work that Gary DeHart and Murph and the other folks behind the scenes that I may not know their names right now, and all the work that they put into making these awards happen. It's a wonderful thing, and thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Vic. And I'll speak for Gary and say thank you for him as well. And I want to move on to Alicia. Alicia Katz-Pollock may today be best known, especially after so many people have mentioned her writing and teaching. She may be best known as a writer and instructor for all things QuickBooks, but she and her partner, Jamie, founded Royal Wise with a mission to teach computer technology to users at their own speed in order to help them achieve their technical goals. Among those technologies was QuickBooks. And Alicia not only gained her QuickBooks Basic and Advanced certifications, but quickly became a highly qualified trainer in the QuickBooks community. At the same time, she continued to work with her clients on meeting their needs. And this year, we recognized Alicia as Insightful Accountant's QBO Apologist ProAdvisor Award recipient. And so I'm going to let Alicia, I'm just going to give Alicia the floor and let her talk to you for about 7 or 8 minutes. And then I'll take the last 10 minutes to kind of talk to you about the awards in general.
Well, thank you, Murph. Being one of the top 10 ProAdvisors was actually on my bucket list. And so like over the years, I made the top 200 for a couple of years, and then I made the top 100 for a couple of years. And like, I wanted to be a top 10 ProAdvisor. And so getting this award has just absolutely meant so much to me, because it's standing on the shoulders of giants, that there's been so many people who have really developed the expertise in the community, and to be acknowledged with those thought leaders and people who make a difference is just a huge honor. I love the fact that I got the category apologist. Murphy stole my joke a little earlier that a lot of people keep going, well, why isn't it an apologist? And sometimes I feel like I'm more an apologist than an apologist, because I spend my time talking about how to make QuickBooks Online do the things that it doesn't do natively, like what are all the creative little workarounds. And so I've been actually embracing apologist as well as apologist. So where I started with all of this is when I was 13 years old, is about the time that the first home computers came out. And I know I'm totally dating myself when I say that. But my dad bought his 13-year-old daughter her first Mac Plus, and the first thing that I did with it was learn how to build a database. And he was a dentist, and so I learned how to make a database, and I took all his charts on the wall and I digitized all his patients so that he could send out mailing labels and send out their postcards so that they could get their cleanings every 6 months. So that was my first job. And so I worked in his family business for years. And then I got Microsoft Office certified as well. And so I was teaching computer applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint at business colleges and community colleges. And then I got Apple certified because I've been using Apple's stuff since I was 13. And so I was part of the Apple Consultants Network and doing business consulting for Apple computers and integrations, and then iPhones came out. And so when I was doing all of that business consulting with helping people use their Microsoft Office and their Apple products, small businesses were saying to me, well, what about QuickBooks? Can you help me with QuickBooks? And I had been using QuickBooks myself, and I also had a side hustle making jewelry at wanderingstarjewelry.com. That's actually, I've sold the company about 5 years ago. And so I had learned QuickBooks from the the business owner end of it. And when people would ask me for support with it, I was like, well, I've just been kind of figuring this out myself. So I started talking to different bookkeepers and having them look at the work that I was doing in QuickBooks. And, and they were saying, well, you're not just like good at this, like these are rock solid books. And so I was really interested in it. I find it really, really satisfying to organize transactions and put them all in the right buckets and have all the numbers work out. And so I got QuickBooks certified. So here I am sitting on 3 different certifications. And then I met my husband, Jamie, and Jamie also did computer support. And so we formed RoyalWise together. And so RoyalWise Solutions Inc. or RoyalWise.com is a husband and wife team where we are the trainers. And originally when we started, we would take a call from the client, just whoever was first available would get the spot. But then QuickBooks just started having a life of its own, especially like about 10 years ago when QBO really started getting its legs. I started getting more and more and more calls for the QuickBooks side of it. And so we finally decided to kind of split it. And so I went QuickBooks 24/7 and he started doing all of the Apple support. So we just kind of diverged it a little bit. And so what I do is a little bit different from a lot of the people that I support, that I'm not a bookkeeper. I'm a computer software troubleshooter and trainer, that I have a master's in teaching and I love explaining things to people. And so the way that my firm has developed is that I'm more of a support system than ongoing bookkeeping. I mean, I do have a handful of small micro businesses that I do the bookkeeping for, but what we started doing is as the technology developed, we were teaching in a classroom, just like this one, at an Apple store. And people would come in and come to our classes. And so we would have, a room full of people that we were teaching classes to. And we were like, wouldn't it be cool if we could broadcast these classes? Wouldn't it be cool if we could actually get that word out there to people and they could take the classes from anywhere? So we were getting all set up to start recording things. And that's when Zoom became a thing and GoToMeeting. And so we started broadcasting our classes, and then COVID hit and there was no reason to actually go on site anymore. So we actually stopped doing on-site training altogether. I no longer rent a room and set up my green screen in the room. I now just do it all through Zoom. And so when I was doing the trainings, the next thought process was, well, how do we leverage this so that they don't have to just be there at this time? And so we started recording everything and offering it through the website. And so that's kind of where a lot of the technology has gone for us. So when I think of Appologists, it's not just like what apps connect to QuickBooks, it's kind of the whole big scope of using your whole tech stack and all of the software available to you. And how can you be creative with the tools that you have to solve problems in new and innovative ways? And so at RoyalWise.com, we built this elaborate training facility that we actually kind of have a school now, where I have over 40 different QuickBooks online classes. And Jamie has about 40 Apple classes as well to learn iPhones and Macs and all of that. And so you can come in and just find the one class that you need that solves the one problem that you're having, or you can join as a member and take all of the different classes and just binge watch all of the classes. And then in the membership program, you can ask me questions as well. And so my practice has really evolved into being almost like a support desk, almost like a help desk, where instead of calling into a support and sitting on hold and then getting somebody where more than they do, I just go in and I answer the question for what the problem is. And here's the workaround that you need to do to do this. And so I find it really satisfying because every day is different. I'm not doing the same thing over and over and over again. Every time I work with a client, they have a different tech stack. They are using different apps. So that's where the appologist comes into play, is I need to figure out what's happening on their system and then how does it playing with their QuickBooks, and then what can we do to solve the problem that they're having, whether it's duplicate data or, why do you even use that system? You can do that right inside QuickBooks. That, for example, QuickBooks Payments. a lot of people don't know that, well, everybody knows that you can take your credit cards through QuickBooks, but what people don't know is that there's a whole separate app called GoPayment where you can now set up your iPad and your swiper and actually do it as a point of sale system in the stores. And so finding those solutions and finding those creative ways of using QuickBooks Online to work with or even replace some of the technology that they're using is really one of the things that I'd love to do. And so it allows me to see all different kinds of niches, all, whether it's working with a landlord or a retail store, it's finding all of those solutions. And so for those of you who are at QuickBooks Connect, and I think it was like 2017 or 2018, at the very end after the keynote, they gave us all these little bracelets with these discs on it that said together. And I loved those little bracelets. And so I wore my together for about a year. And then I loved that whole, it's called What's Your Word? And so I actually wanted to make one myself. And so I got a kit and I made my word in 2020. I wanted to make one in January for my New Year's resolution was partnerships. So my 2020 was all about developing partnerships and strategic partnerships to provide this training and support to different people, whether it's business owners, but even more importantly, people in the accounting industry, where we can kind of leverage this expertise that I have in a creative way that works for everybody. And Insightful Accountant was actually one of the first strategic partnerships that I put together, where I have some books that I wrote on Amazon. Like I have a basic, it's called Mastering QuickBooks Online from Setup to Tax Time. And it's really just a basic book, like the kind of book that you would hand to your client when you're setting them up with QuickBooks Online for the first time. And so we took that book and I kind of sliced it up into little pieces and we ran it for a year as little excerpts. Or working with Marriott Martinez, or working with different guest instructors to provide resources that I can't provide, because I have a lot of expertise, but I don't know anything. I don't know everything. Nobody can know everything in this industry because there's just so much to know. And so Susan, when you held up your book for Doug Sleater, one of the projects that I've been working on with Questiva Consulting, who bought Doug's book, was I'm rewriting his books and modernizing them and bringing them into the modern age. Like Doug's original textbooks didn't even talk about credit cards, because back when they were written, credit cards weren't ubiquitous the way that they are right now. And so one of my projects is partnering with Questiva to modernize accounting training. And
Alicia, I'm going to have
Yes.
to ask you to let me try to start wrapping this up.
Okay, let me just say my one
Yep.
last closing thing is that for me, what brings this full circle is the hard work that I've been putting in. I'm the kind of type A, and I work pretty much 24/7. And, my kids know that after dinner, mom's going to go back upstairs and start working again. And so it's nice having this job security, but most of all, it's really nice knowing that all these hours that I'm putting in are really making a difference to people. And so, thank you all for all of the support, and for really the saying about, instead of all of us fighting over slices of the pie, together we get to bake a bigger pie, because there's enough for all of us. There's enough clients for everybody. There's enough business for everybody. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Emily, if you would go ahead and advance. Yep, that's the slide I need. I want to talk with you all just a little, and I'm going to tell this story first. I wasn't going to. I was going to tell it last, but I'm going to tell this story first. And I want you all to look at this picture carefully here. And in your mind, you might kind of envision what this looks like. But I want you, as I tell this story, to think about the fact that this process that we use is so closely tied to the application form that you complete as a part of going through the process. And as I mentioned a while ago, you know, it's how you view yourself and how you record yourself in that application form that really is critical to the way that the algorithms we use rank you, because you're ranked not against each other, you're ranked against criteria. There is a criteria for each of these categories, and each one of those questions ties back to each one of those categories. So let me just say that when this all started, Gary and Joe came to me and they said, we want you to figure out how to come up with an awards process that we can give a ProAdvisor of the Year award, and we can find a top 100, and we can actually determine, you know, the best of the best. And I said, golly, I don't have a clue. And I started thinking about it. I did a bunch of work, and about 2 weeks later, a friend of mine called me up and she said, hey, I want you to go with me down to Dallas. And I said, okay, I'll go with you. And we went down to Dallas, and we went to the dog show. I'd never been to a dog show, and I'd seen the Westminster dog show, but she took me to the dog show and she started explaining to me about, you know, how the dog show works. Well, there's breeds, and the breeds are evaluated, and then the best in the breeds go to groups, and then the groups are evaluated, and then the best of each group goes to the final show, and all of the best of each group is judged, and they're all judged against their own standard. And then finally, at that judging, the judge determines the best in show. I got back and I said, you know what? That process will work for us. What we have to do is we have to determine standards for each of these categories. And each of those categorical standards can be tied to the application. And the questions in the application will weight the value of the categories. So let me give you some specifics. Let's say that in a question we ask you to rate yourself as what type of work you do, and you rate yourself as a 5 in QuickBooks Online, and a 4 is business outsourcing, and a 3 in QBO app integrations, and a 2 in training, and a 1 in QuickBooks Desktop. That all sounds great. But then when we ask you about your clients, you tell us that 80% of your clients are in QuickBooks Desktop and only 20% of your clients are using QBO. You've just created a conflict. You say that, first of all, you're primarily a QuickBooks Online ProAdvisor, but only 20% of your clients are QBO. You've got to think about what kind of practice you have. You've got to focus as you go through that app. You've got to keep in mind that all the questions in the application are tied to these categories, and that you're always striving to be the best in one single category, the category that best fits you as a ProAdvisor. And here's why. If a person scores a 55 in desktop and a 58 in training, or a 59 in niche, but a 61 in appology, then they're going to be categorized in that group for that year. And their 61 might rate them as 8th place, or it could rate them as third place in that category. But in either case, they're in the top 10 highest in the category. So they're automatically in the top 100 because the top 100 is made of the top 10 for each of the 10 categories. And they could very well, if that score is the highest, be in first place for the category, which means they're the categorical winner. And just like at the dog show, the best of the categorical winners is the ProAdvisor of the Year. It doesn't mean the person with the highest overall score. It means the person that has the best fit to the standard amongst all of the categorical winners. That, folks, is exactly how this works. It's worked for 8 years. And it's worked perfectly. And every winner deserves exactly what they've won. There's no favoritism. There's no special considerations. They've earned the awards that they've won. You can win up to 2 categories. And you can win ProAdvisor of the Year. You've just got to be thoughtful when you fill out that application form and know what the goal is. So, as Emily told you, this is the last show that I'll be doing for QB Talks. And with that, I will turn it back to Emily to tell you farewell.
All right. Thank you, Murph. Congratulations to everyone who joined us today. And thank you all for attending. I will get the follow-up email sent out here a little bit later today. And as I said, our December QB Talks is not going to be on this link. It's going to be a part of our Future Forward event on December 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And that'll be what's new in QBO in 2022. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next Insightful Accountant webinar. Have a great day.